All right, things that you need today. You have to have a calculator, okay? If you don't have a calculator, there will be a time for you to get one in like the middle of this page. This first part, you don't need a calculator as far as what we have going on here. So opposite leg, adjacent leg, hypotenuse. We already hopefully know what the hypotenuse is. So I'm going to put an H on the hypotenuse. If you don't remember what the hypotenuse is, you take the right angle and you point across the triangle. That's the hypotenuse. So that is going to be, we're going to call it, it's BA is the hypotenuse. Because remember, you name it with 2 letters. It's the line in between those 2 letters. And then you need opposite and adjacent in reference to angle B. So this is where things get a little different. So the hypotenuse is always going to stay the same. The opposite and adjacent is based on your reference angle. So I want everyone to circle angle B. That is your reference angle. And then we've got to think of the words opposite and adjacent. So like, if you think of the word opposite, hopefully you think of like, if I am standing right here in this corner, the opposite side of the room would be the other corner, like as far away from me as possible, right? The word adjacent literally means next to. Okay, so we've talked about adjacent angles before. Now we're talking about sides that are adjacent to these angles. So opposite sides, here is angle B. The side that's opposite of B is going to be this side because it's on the other side of the triangle. It is not touching B. So the opposite side, it is not touching angle B. So that's important. That's CA. And then the adjacent side is going to be BC. It is touching angle B. That's important too. It's touching angle B. So the opposite side is not touching angle B, the adjacent side is touching angle B, and the hypotenuse is also going to be touching the angle, but it's the longest side, so it's like a different thing there. Okay, that's literally all we're doing is identifying these and then putting them into fractions. The fractions are, they're like ratios, they're based on this right here. So I want you to look at these letters, OH, AH, OA. So these are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. And then the S, C, T, I want you to grab your calculator, and I want you to look at your calculator and find sine, cosine, and tangent. So all these are, sine, cosine, and tangent, it's like this group of numbers that will help you to solve for different pieces of triangle. So like with Pythagorean theorem, in the past, you had 2 of the sides of the triangle to find the third. For this one, you only have to have one side of the triangle and one angle besides the right angle to be able to figure out all the other sides using these ratios right here. It's like this is sine, cosine, and tangent, and it goes with O and H, A and H, O and A. So there is like, you won't really have to memorize it, but there is a, like an acronym. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on apples, which this could be a different word, but we're going to say apples. So you can do with that what you wish. Whatever helps you to remember it. And then what we're going to do now is I want you to take your calculator and I want you to type, well, first of all, do this with me because if you don't have it in degree mode, it's going to be wrong. You're going to click mode on your calculator and you're going to find this screen right here. So here's mode. And then you're going to go down to where it says, see if radian is highlighted. You want yours to be in degree. So click on mode and see how mine is highlighted with degree. If yours is highlighted radian, highlight degree, click enter, and it should switch that over. Because if I click enter and switch it to radian, I'm going to get the wrong answer. Okay? All right. And now we should be able to clear out. Now we can do all of these things. So sine, cosine, and tangent is literally just a number. So tangent of 50 is this number. So I want you to make sure you're actually getting these numbers in your calculator. Because if you're not, that means your calculator is not in radian. Or not in degree. If it's in radian, you're going to get the wrong answers. So you can type those in, just tan of 50, cosine of 50, sine of 50, to make sure it's in degree, because we're going to be using degree this entire unit. Okay, so that's really for just like the rest of this unit. For the rest of today, don't type sine, cosine, or tangent in your calculator right now, okay? Don't type sine, cosine, or tangent in your calculator. So you are now going to circle M. We're going to do this together. And now we're going to label this triangle. So I'm going to pause my screen, and I want you to label it opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Okay, so you hopefully circled M. H is going to be 25. O is going to be 7. A is going to be 24. All right, so what you do now is the sine of M, you're going to look back up here and say some old hippie, because sine is going to be the opposite side over the hypotenuse side. So O is 7, H is 25. So 7 over 25 is going to be the sine ratio for this triangle, okay? So you're not typing in sine in your calculator or anything. You're just putting it in a fraction. All right, cosine is going to be the caught another hippie, adjacent over hypotenuse. So 24 over 25. That's going to be the cosine. And then the tangent is all of M is always going to be 7 through 27 over 24. It's always going to be opposite over adjacent. So here's the deal. If N was my angle that was right here, the O and the A would be switched. But since M as in man, is our reference angle, 7 is opposite or on the opposite side of the triangle, 24 is adjacent or right next to it. All right, we're going to do one more example. So D is our angle, and we are now going to label, here's my hypotenuse, and I want you to label the opposite side and the adjacent side. So 8 is going to be one of them, 6 is going to be one of them. Remember that the adjacent side is right next to the angle we circled, and it touches the angle, so that's going to be 6. O is going to be on the opposite side of the triangle, so O is not allowed to touch angle D. All right, so our sine is O over H. Remember, some old hippie. So O over H is 8 over 10. The difference with this one, so here's what you're not going to do here. You're not going to type in sine of anything into your calculator. But you do want to simplify 8 over 10. So you can do one of two things. If you know how to simplify that in your head and see, oh, you can divide both of those by 2, great. If you don't know how to simplify those in your head, use your calculator as your friend. Green, and then the number next to it, or the button next to it. So alpha x will give you what you need as far as to simplify this. So you do 8 over 10, 4 over 5. Okay, so that's going to be your ratio, 4 over 5. And so that's how you answer that. All right, then cosine of D, remember, caught another hippie, and it's like up here. You don't have to have that memorized. C-A-H. Yeah, so you're going to do alpha and then the x. And it should bring that up. There's multiple ways to do it. I just think that's the easiest one. Okay, so I'm going to pause my screen. I want you guys to figure out the cosine and the tangent and simplify the fraction. Okay, so I have these in here. Cosine of D. Caught another hippie. 6 over 10. So that simplifies to 3 over 5. And then tangent simplifies to 4 over 3.